This is Mariah. She's my dance and movement therapist. And actually, we met last October. I was at a mental health substance use conference, and I had come out of a workshop on motivational interviewing. And it was painstaking in that I couldn't go to one more heady kind of thing. So I looked at what the agenda was, and I'm like, well, this could be really interesting because I have limits about my ability to move around and really didn't know what to expect. But I entered it with having an open mind and saying, okay, this could be interesting. And it was very interesting. Mariah was a really safe person for me from the get-go. And the things that we did, it was with a group. It wasn't, there were some things that we paired off and did, but it was okay for me to take a break and sit down when I couldn't do it. And there was part of me that was sad that there were some things that I couldn't do. What I was able to pinpoint was how problematic my life is relative to the 20 plus knee surgeries that I've had. So, I kind of observed the situation and got a feel for it. And then I'm like, well, this could be an interesting new therapy for me. And, so I called Mariah and we talked about it. I knew I had to do things differently than I had been doing things because they weren't working. I spent a lot of time disconnected specifically to my left knee.
Typically, we do a verbal check-in, and then we do some sort of a warm-up where we incorporate breath and mindfulness and just an opportunity for Mary just to check in and notice anything that's happening in her body. And that sort of serves as a way to ground, just to become present in the moment. It's just a little bit of time to give that priority to your body to check in with it.
Yeah, that's really critical for me in that, being disconnected from my body. And I've had more connection lately with it, and holding a lot of things in my shoulders, but a big weight has always been on my chest. And, having that ability to say, okay, this is going on, what does it feel like? And then what does it translate into as far as movement goes? And, being part of the catalyst for, what a session will look like. Even being aware of my body and looking at the kind of space that I functioned in, whether it was a small, medium, or large space, and discovering that I've really functioned in a small space for many years now, and then realizing that when I had manic episodes, I was really in this large space, not having boundaries for myself, getting into people's faces. It wasn't just conceptually this thought or the life in the small space, but it was the choice of where I went. And there's actually a pole holding up a beam holding up the ceiling in this room, and that's my spot.
Yeah.
And there's a part of the floor that's uneven, and that's my other spot. And for whatever reason, they're safe spots for me, and I'm challenged physically of what I can do. So the pole provides some reprieve for me.
And my job is to help you connect those to the greater picture of what's going on emotionally, or to take those physical experiences that you're already having and kind of bring them into the light, so then we can explore them a little bit and maybe take them further, maybe think about, well, what would happen if you did take the small space your body was in and if you made it into a really big space, or what would happen if we took what we were doing, this drumming that we're doing, and if we really intensified it. And then kind of this play back and forth of the physical and emotional response that comes from moving your body in a new way.
The work is really trauma work, and talking about that it's going to be a slow process, and there's a lot of things. And even though my intent is like, well, what's going on with my leg and how is my life impacted, but I can't disconnect from the other things that are going on. It's who I am. It's all encompassing.
Our first experiences are through our body. We're babies and we're starting to take in our world through other people's bodies and through our bodies long before we're able to verbalize. And so I believe that healing also starts on that physical level, you know, because that we have to feel it before we're able to sometimes bring it out into words. So for someone like you, Mary, you've had such a enormous amount of physical trauma. You know, you've had all the things happening with your knee surgeries, you have had abuse, and so it's really finding that space to say, how can we connect back to our body, and how can we find some healing and some wholeness and find the enjoyment and the wellness that can be a part of our physical experience, so that you can see your body as a whole person and not so that it's just memories or triggers of all these parts that have been traumatizing.
Mariah's sensitivity and respect of my process is so critical. I mean, that really is the foundation of where things begin.